Good morning and welcome to Deepwater Baptist Church Online. And happy Mother's Day to all you mums, especially to my mum who I haven't seen for so long. Missing you a lot, Mum, and can't wait to see you again and give you a great big hug. Look forward to doing that when we can. But today is a day to celebrate all our mums and to say thank you for all the things that our mums do for us. Mums always have their work cut out, don't they? And this year has been an even bigger challenge. Many mums have had to entertain the kids much more at home this year, and many of you have had the challenge of homeschooling. Well, thank goodness, the children are back in school now. But the work of a mum never stops, does it? And mums do all that they do without pay because they love their children. Every mother cherishes the day when their children are born. Every mother does everything they can to protect their children from danger. And every mother hopes that their children will grow up to be something great. But for one mother in the Bible, the day her child was born would have been a very frightening day. To protect her son from danger, she had to think smart, and she had to take some incredible risks. But her son did grow up to be something great, one of the greatest leaders in history. Her name was Jochebed. You may not have heard of her, but you will certainly have heard of her son, because Jochebed was the mother of Moses. Jochebed's story is incredible. It's like a movie plot. In actual fact, they've made several movies, Moses' story. Anyway, the story begins way back in ancient Egypt. Now, the story of God's people in Egypt actually starts with Joseph. You may have seen the show Joseph and His Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Well, if you've ever seen that show, or if you know the story, then you'll know that Joseph ends up in Egypt. And he helps Pharaoh to manage the harvest. So as Egypt get through 7 years of famine. And because of this, Joseph's family moved to Egypt, and the Israelites start to grow and multiply. So life is going well for the Israelites. But then a new Pharaoh comes to power, and he doesn't see things in quite the same way that his father did. We read this in Exodus chapter 1. Then a new king, to whom Joseph meant nothing, came to power in Egypt. Look, he said to his people, the Israelites have become far too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous. And if war breaks out, we'll join our enemies, fight against us and leave the country. So Pharaoh sees the Israelites as a threat. And what he did to deal with that threat was pretty shocking. He made them slaves and he oppressed them. But the Bible says the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So Pharaoh gave orders that were terrifying to any expectant mothers. The king in Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, when you help the Hebrew women in childbirth and observe them on the delivery stool, if it's a boy, kill him. But if it's a girl, let her live. Can you imagine being a mother at a time like that? Giving birth in fear that if your baby is a boy, he will be instantly taken from you and put to death. This must have been a very difficult time for the Hebrew mothers. However, the midwives fear God, so they didn't carry out the king's orders. They allowed the boys to live. And when Pharaoh asked them to explain themselves, their answer is quite amusing. They say, Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They are vigorous and they give birth before the midwives arrive. I'm sure many of you ladies only wish it were that easy. But then Pharaoh gave a terrifying order to all his people that would have sent shockwaves through the Hebrew people. He ordered that every boy that's born you must throw into the Nile, but let every girl live. It was at this time that Jochebed gave birth to her baby son. Now a man of the house of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it amongst the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. I wonder what you would have done in Jochebed's shoes. How would you protect your baby from danger? We often teach this story to children. You might have heard the story of Moses in the bulrushes when you were young. It sounds calm and tranquil, almost idyllic, doesn't it? When we think of the story of baby Moses, wrapped snugly in a blanket, put in his baby basket and floated gently on the water. But I imagine the reality was very different for Jochebed. I'm sure most of you mothers would tell your children to stay away from the water, let alone float them in a basket on the river. And even today, the Nile can be a very dangerous place. The Nile crocodile, for example, is said to kill hundreds of people every year. And a few years ago, large crocodiles were terrorising residents in Cairo. But of course, baby Moses had an even bigger danger than the Nile crocodile. He had the danger of Pharaoh. But despite the dangers, Jochebed put her trust in God. She knew that she couldn't keep her baby safe any longer. So as she floated him on the water, she trusted that God would take care of him. It must have been heartbreaking for Jochebed. But God answered her prayer. Not only did he take care of Moses, but he also took care of Jochebed too, in the most unusual way. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket amongst the reeds and sent her female servant to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Of all the people that could have found baby Moses, the last place Jochebed would have wanted him to end up was in the hands of Pharaoh's daughter. Remember, Pharaoh had ordered that if they discovered a baby boy, they were to throw him in the Nile. Perhaps it was her own maternal instinct that made Pharaoh's daughter feel sorry for baby Moses. Or maybe it was because God had a plan for this young child. Now remember, Moses' sister Miriam had been watching from the banks to see what would happen. And Miriam now acts very bravely and very smartly. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go," she said. And the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. Don't you find that incredible? Isn't God amazing? So often he finds a way that we never imagined or even thought was possible. Jochebed was probably hoping that Moses would float off way out of Egypt and be found by a loving family somewhere. She probably thought she'd never see him again. But instead, God had answered her prayer in the most extraordinary way. At a time when it was illegal to have a baby son, she got to bring up her own son under the protection of Pharaoh's palace. And she got paid for it. How amazing is that? And God wasn't finished yet. Moses was later adopted by Pharaoh's daughter, and he became a prince in Egypt. So Pharaoh, I guess, was Moses' step-granddad. How weird is that? And what about the other prayer of a mother, that your child will grow up to be something great? while Moses became one of the greatest leaders of all time. He became a great man of God and later challenged Pharaoh and led the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt and into freedom. Today, life can be very challenging for many mothers. The challenges you face may not be quite the same as the challenges that Jochebed had to deal with. But nonetheless, being a mother is a tough calling. So today, let's give thanks to our mums for all that they do for us. And if you're a mother or a mother-to-be, then I pray that God will bless you richly, just as he blessed Jochebed. I pray that he will bless your children, just as he blessed Moses. I pray that God may protect your children from the many dangers that they face in the world today. And I pray that your children will grow up to be the incredible men or women of God that he created them to be. Whatever you're doing today, have a wonderful Mother's Day, and may God bless you all.